Greetings, greetings, greetings. Yes, thanks for tuning in to the Supreme Lion YouTube channel. So today, I bring to you a roundup of week 2 of the Noel Maitland murder trial in the Home Circuit Court in downtown Kingston. So week 2 ran from Tuesday, May 20, 2025 to Thursday, May 22, 2025. Some very interesting things came out in court in the second week, much of which you'll hear. Yeah, but before we delve into the meat of the matter, just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and share the link with your friends. Yeah, like the video as well. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. So Noel Maitland, Constable Noel Maitland, is on trial for murder and preventing the lawful burial of a corpse. This is in relation to the death of his 24-year-old girlfriend, Donna-Lee Donaldson. So Donaldson, who was a social media influencer and an entrepreneur, was last seen alive at the Chelsea Manor apartment complex in New Kingston in St. Andrew, where Constable Maitland lived. So closed circuit television footage showed Donna-Lee arriving at Maitland's apartment, seeing, but none showed when she left. A wide range of circumstantial evidence, including blood on curtains inside Maitland's apartment, led detectives, prosecutors to confidently theorize that Donaldson was killed in Maitland's apartment between July 12, 2022 and July 13, 2022. So in the week prior to Tuesday, May 20, 2025, the court, the 7-member jury in the case, and Justice Leighton Pusey, who is the presiding judge in the matter, they ended week 1 hearing evidence from a very close friend of Donna-Lee. So week 2 started with that friend on the witness stand again. Seeing? And it continued with after that friend completed her testimony. So she went through her evidence in chief. That's when the prosecution asks her questions and she responds. And then now she went through cross-examination, which was conducted by Christopher Townsend, who is one of Maitland's attorneys. Yeah, so after the friend completed her testimony, then there was a sister. The next witness after her was a sister of Donna-Lee's father. Then after her, there were 2 representatives of the Independent Commission of Investigations, otherwise known as INDICOM, as well as a former neighbor of Noel Maitland. That neighbor was, why may I tell you? Anyhow, we soon get to him. So now the friend of Donna-Lee in week 2, as I said, in week 1, she explained when was the last time she heard from Donna-Lee, and that she was calling her and didn't hear from her friend again. So we'll get into that right now. So the friend told the court that she last spoke to Donna-Lee on July 12, 2022, around 2 p.m., thereabout. She said previously, in the week, in the first week of the trial, she said that she and Donna-Lee had made arrangements for her to pick up some money from Donna-Lee to clear up a bill at a restaurant. And Donna-Lee was supposed to collect this money from MoneyGram, which her father had sent. Her father, who was living in the Bahamas at the time. Her father is now deceased, I must say. He died in 2024. That's last year. Yeah. So the friend told the court that after she last spoke to her at 2 p.m., when she spoke to her at 2 p.m. on July 12, 2022, she never heard from Donna-Lee again. During cross-examination, which was conducted by Christopher Townsend, the friend told the court that during her last conversation with Donna-Lee Donaldson, she got the impression that Donaldson could have been on the road based on the cars and the noise she heard in Donna-Lee's background on the phone. So in the previous week, in week 1, when she started giving her testimony, she told the court that after she received a social media message, I think it was an Instagram message from Donna-Lee's brother, that prompted her to call Noel Maitland, right? This was after she wasn't hearing from her again on the 12th. So that prompted her to call Noel Maitland, right? And she, asked him when was the last time he saw Donna-Lee or whatever the case is, when last he spoke to her. According to her, she said that Maitland told her that Donna-Lee, that he was asleep, and Donna-Lee had, when he got up, Donna-Lee wasn't there. She had left and apparently to go collect some money from MoneyGram, which her father had sent, right? And he hasn't heard from her since. So he and the friend, both of them are on the phone, according to the friend. Seeing? Both of them are on the phone, and boy, he suggested that, both of them agreed that some contact should be made to mutual friends to find out if they had heard from her or whatever the case might have been. So the friend said, well, she called about 4 friends who she knew that, Donna-Lee was pretty close to, mutual friends. And none of them had heard from Donna-Lee. So she said when she called back, she claimed that when she called back Maitland on the phone, he started to cry very loudly. So Townsend asked her how she knew this, that he was actually crying. So she said she wasn't able to know if there was actually tears, but she was of the impression that he was crying based on, how he sounded. Yeah? Yeah, so according to the friend, the money that she was supposed to collect from Donna-Lee was to pay a bill, because Donna-Lee's birthday was on the 10th? of July. But prior to that day, they had gone to a restaurant to eat with some other friends of Donna-Lee. And there was some bill, some outstanding money that was left on a bill. The friend said she paid her part. That's the friend. She said she paid her part. She wasn't sure who exactly was the cause of the outstanding balance at the restaurant, but she was sure that she paid her part. She wasn't sure if it was Donna-Lee, and she wasn't sure about the friends, right? But anyhow, Donna-Lee being the person whose birthday it was, she, apparently took up some responsibility and intended to pay the balance. The friend told the court that she was the one, the friend herself, was put in charge. Apparently, she didn't say specifically if Donna-Lee put her in charge of collecting the money, but the friend said that she was in charge of collecting the money to settle this bill at the restaurant. Yeah, so with that said and done, we move on to the next aspect of the cross-examination that was being led by Christopher Townsend. So for everybody listening now, I would recommend that you listen to part 1, yeah, which says Noel Maitland murder trial week 1, so you can actually hear what took place in week 1 and kind of match it back to what happened in week 2 during court. I won't be able to explain or go over the same things that I already explained in week 1, particularly as it relates to the friend, right? But anyhow, the friend said it came to her attention that Noel Maitland had a baby mother by the name of Katyan. And she also admitted that it was brought to her attention that her friend Donna-Lee Donaldson and Katyan, who is the baby mother of Noel Maitland, had an ongoing dispute. So the next witness, it was a relative of Donna-Lee Donaldson's father. So basically, I think it was her aunt, her father's sister, who is an attorney in the Bahamas. So the sister basically, she wasn't on the witness stand. She appeared in court from a remote location, and she's in the Bahamas, so she appeared via video link, right? So her testimony was quick and fast, simple. They just asked her who she was and to say who her brother was or who Donna-Lee's father was, how many children he had, and yada yada yada, and whether or not she knew Donna-Lee. She said she knew of Donna-Lee, but she had never met her, right? But she knew that Donna-Lee was one of her brother's children. So, as I mentioned, her testimony was very quick. The examination in chief, as well as cross-examination, was through in no time. So that cleared the way for the next witness, about the 4th witness in the case. Yeah. So Donna-Lee's mother was the first witness. The second witness was the friend, Donna-Lee's very close friend. The third witness was this relative of Donna-Lee's father, who obviously would be a relative of Donna-Lee, but they had not met each other. And then now the fourth witness is an employee of Indicom, a senior employee of Indicom. So this senior employee of Indicom is currently one of the directors of complaints for the Eastern region, and that comprises Kingston, St. Thomas, and Portland. That individual also has responsibility for the Special Cases Unit, which focuses on special matters where research needs to be done in specific situations. He explained that where there are frequent occurrences, certain things that happen frequently at a police station or within a particular police division, and also within the Department of Correctional Services. He would be that one he leads that unit who carries out those functions to investigate those frequent complaints. For example, high complaints from citizens of stop and search, and so on and so forth. Yes. So this Indicom employee said that he had been working at Indicom since around 2011 and became a director in 2020, and that he took control of the Special Cases Unit around the same time. Yes, so he said that he described himself as an investigator and said that he received training that would qualify him as such, an investigator. He went to Mind, University of Portsmouth in Scotland. He received certification in investigative skills, and he did other commit training, which he described as a program with the US government. So he said that September 5, 2022, he went to the Bahamas, in Nassau, Bahamas, where he was supposed to meet with Donna-Lee's father. He said that he met with Donna-Lee's father at a medical lab, and that meeting took place on September 6, which was the following day of his arrival in the Bahamas. So he said he met with him based on an indication from Sophia Logg, who is Donna-Lee Donaldson's mother. During that meeting, he said that a justice of the peace was present, as well as a medical laboratory technician. This facility was the Kelso Medical Lab, and he said when they got there, they all were directed, including Donna-Lee's father, the Indicom worker. They were directed to a sterile area, and the purpose of them being there was to collect buccal swabs from Donna-Lee's father. Buccal swabs, for those who don't understand what that is the process of swabbing the mouth for the purposes of DNA, collecting DNA. So he explained that he swabbed Mr. Donaldson's mouth, Donna-Lee's father, and prior to departing Jamaica for the Bahamas. The chief forensic examiner at Indicom guided him through the process, basically showed him how to do that, to swab people's mouth for DNA. So he explained that he put on some gloves, put on the gloves, opened the DNA kit, took out some forms that were in the kit, completed them. On the first form he wrote right, which would mean that this would cover all the swabs that he would take of Mr. Donaldson's right inner cheeks. He said he packaged the swabs or the samples taken from, he did it twice and packaged them before moving on to the second phase of the operation or the exercise, which was to fill out some more forms and indicate that this has to do with the left side or whichever side of the cheek. So he swabbed them, and then he also put those, he said he put them back in whatever packaging there was. So after sealing those the package containing these samples, he said he recorded a statement from Donna-Lee's father, and that he wrote as Mr. Donaldson spoke to him. After he read it aloud to Mr. Donaldson, he signed it. Mr. Donaldson, signed it, and then the Indicom director signed it thereafter as a witness. The statement was typed and printed, and then that was when the signing took place. So he said that Donna-Lee's father signed the statement 5 times, and he also signed the statement 5 times as a witness. Yes, so he said that he marked the package with the swabs and kept it in his possession until he returned to Jamaica. On the 8th, so this was the 8th of September 2022. So on the 8th, he said he handed it over, that's the package with the swabs, to a forensic examiner, an Indicom forensic examiner. So the Indicom director went on to explain what Donna-Lee's father had said in his statement. So it said the statement was recorded on the 6th of September 2022. And Donna-Lee's father is a retired physician, a surgeon. So it says here, statement about his daughter who had been missing. Father pointed out that Donna-Lee was the last of his 6 children. So he had 6 children altogether. And that she was 24 years old. He outlined that he was living in the Bahamas, in Nassau. So on July 12th, very important date in this case. So the father outlined that in his statement, which was read in court by the Indicom director, right? So as I already explained, the father of Donna-Lee died in 2024. So his statement is what was read in court, and that was read by the Indicom director. So he said that on July 12, 2022, he saw a missed call from his daughter, right? She sent him a message on WhatsApp, and she sent him her correct address at around 11 past 1 p.m. on July 12, 2022. He said he sent her money through MoneyGram and sent her a message at 10:54 a.m. the following day, which would have been the 13th. Seeing? 13th of July 2022. At that point, he noticed that there was only one tick that came up in the message, which he thought was unusual, as she would normally respond to say, "Thank you, Dad." He said that Donna-Lee, would normally call him when she felt like it. But what he said was that after she received money, she was always grateful. She sent him money. He sent her money, and she would say, "Thank you, Daddy," blah blah blah. Right? So he found it unusual that she didn't respond. So that led him to wonder where her phone was. So after the 12th, the father never spoke to Donna-Lee again. She didn't respond. She didn't ever respond to his message. So the director now underwent cross-examination by Christopher Townsend. Townsend asked him questions about his qualifications, whether or not he wore a mask, whether he washed his hands before he took those swabs from Donna-Lee's father, and whether he was qualified to do those type of activities. So he basically questioned the credibility of the witness. Yeah, so that's basically what that director's testimony was about. Then now on Wednesday, May 21, 2025, there was another Indicom employee, or at the time, she was an employee of Indicom. She no longer works there. She's somewhere different. I won't necessarily say where she is now, but she said in June 2022, she was an employee at Indicom as a crime scene examiner who processed incident scenes, collected exhibits, photographed incident scenes, packaged potential exhibits, and transported those exhibits to the laboratory. And she also attended post-mortem examinations. So she would be the one to transport potential exhibits to the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine. So she did many courses. She's well qualified according to her. She has many degrees. So she did a course in crime scene management and forensic at the International Law Academy in El Salvador, which was a course that was done by the Federal Bureau of Investigations in 2018. She received training in DNA retention, which includes using swabs to collect DNA. She said that training was in 2018, and it was a joint venture between USAID, and the National Integrity Action, NIA. She has a master's in forensic science, which she obtained from the University of the West Indies. She has a bachelor's in medical technology and then an associate degree in biological science. So she left Indicom in August 2020, which wasn't long after she had, been on the case involving Donna-Lee's investigations. So she said she recalled July 26, 2022. She was requested on that day to go and collect some DNA samples. So she went with an investigator and a justice of the peace to the address or the home of Sophia Log. That's the same home where Donna-Lee Donaldson lived in Kingston, in St. Andrew. So the main purpose of her going there was to get DNA from Sophia Log, who is Donna-Lee's mother. She said when she got there, she introduced herself to Miss Log and she completed the form, the DNA evidence regulation form, by filling out the required information, which thereafter Miss Log signed the form and the Justice of the Peace signed the form as well and stamped it as a witness. Then she proceeded to carry out the process of collecting the swabs, the samples, the DNA samples via buccal swabs. Yeah, she swabbed for DNA. So her method was putting on a mask. She put on gloves. After she signed whatever she signed, she took off the gloves, put on fresh gloves, and then she opened packages to lift, to take out the cotton swabs, and she used those swabs to get the DNA, and she did it on both cheeks, left and right inner cheeks. After she completed that process, she said she went back to the office, the Indicom office, where she placed the sealed packets containing the swabs in a secured storage area, which is her filing cabinet, which is usually locked with a key for safekeeping. And she had the key. She next saw the package the following day when she removed it from the filing cabinet and brought it to the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, which is essentially the lab, the government laboratory for, forensics and blah, blah. When she removed it, she said when she removed it from the secured place, it was still sealed. After she took it to the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, she never saw it again. She told the court that she labeled it properly, the name of the person who the swabs were taken from, the date, and other things, other details. And she said she also signed the seal. She put her signature on it. So shortly after that, she was cross-examined by another of Maitland's attorneys. Maitland has a team of attorneys. You have Townsend, you have Chadwick Berry, you have Casey and Kennedy Sherman, you have Sanjay Smith, And you also have a King's Counsel. I don't remember his name, but there's also a King's Counsel on the matter. Yeah, so that ended the second day of testimony in week 2 of the Noel Maitland murder trial, which brings us now to Thursday, May 22, 2025. The next witness to give evidence was a neighbor of Noel Maitland. This is his one of his neighbors at the Chelsea Manor apartments in New Kingston. Alright. So this neighbor says that currently he is an economist who is working for a multilateral institution. Let's just put it like that. In 2022, he was living in Jamaica. In June 2022, he was living at the Chelsea Manor apartments. And up to June 2022, he had been living there for over a year. He described Chelsea Manor as a gated community. He said there was a gate which has an attendant that operates 24 hours a day, and there are 3 floors. There's a ground floor, the second floor, and the third floor. He said his apartment was on the first floor. He said if he stood with his back to his apartment, he would be facing the parking lot, and directly in front of him would be the parking spot of Noel Maitland, right? He told the court that up to June 2022, he had known Noel Maitland for over a year. He would have seen him on average like 2 times per week, sometimes day and sometimes night, when he was coming from work, when Noel was coming from work, or when he, the neighbor, was coming from work. He would have spoken to him on multiple occasions over the period. He said he would have spoken to him in person and over the phone. He said he would have spoken to Maitland more in person than on the phone. He told the court that there was a period when he went around to knock on everybody's door in the complex as he was trying to garner support for the installation of security cameras within the complex. So when he knocked on Maitland's door, he said he received 2 numbers from Mr. Maitland, 2 cell phone numbers, which he saved in his cell phone. He couldn't recall those numbers at the time, but said he had put them in his statement that he gave to Indicom. So his statement was given to Indicom on July 21, 2022, in which he expressed to Indicom that he would have spoken to Maitland as Maitland contacted him from one of those numbers. He said Mr. Maitland, Noel Maitland, lived on the 2nd floor of Block A, which is adjacent to Block B, where he, the neighbor, lived. The neighbor said, interestingly now, so now everybody needs to to tune in and listen carefully if you haven't been doing so before. Seeing? So the neighbor said, oh, just in case you forgot, just try and subscribe to the page and get all your friends and family and associates to subscribe to Supreme Lion Media, JA. Yes. So the neighbor said that on July 13, 2022, Noel Maitland called him. He called him on WhatsApp about 5 p.m. and that he told Maitland that he was unavailable and recommended that he call him back around 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. that same day. Maitland called him back around that time, the recommended 7 p.m. time, but he still wasn't at home because he was at a friend's house, right? The neighbor wasn't at home. At that point in time, he claimed that Maitland told him that he was up for promotion at his workplace and asked if the information or the footage recorded on his cameras at the apartment was stored. He told him that he knew that it was being recorded or recording was actually taking place, but that he didn't know how long it was recorded for or whether or not it was stored. So he explained to him that because of the promotion or the upcoming promotion, he was concerned that in the process of them evaluating him for the promotion, they would do deep checks, background checks and so on, and he didn't want anything to jeopardize his promotion, and anything stored on the camera that could jeopardize his promotion, he didn't want that. So he outlined that anything problematic that was recorded on the camera would definitely, jeopardize his promotion. For example, Maitland said he claimed that Maitland pointed out that, he might have walked by with a spliff, that is a marijuana / ganja spliff. He expressed concerns that the camera could have picked up this type of thing. So the neighbor said he told him that he didn't know how long the content was saved for and that he would check when he got home. And he claimed that Maitland wanted him, the neighbor, to give him his word that nothing was being saved by the camera or from the camera footage. The neighbor said he told Maitland that he would check when he got home. He never heard from him again on the 13th of July. But the following day, on the 14th of July, the neighbor told the court that he was working from home, so he was there at home. He said at about 11 a.m., Noel Maitland, came to his door while he was inside on a virtual meeting, work-related meeting. He said he knew it was Maitland because he looked on the television, that was linked to his camera system inside the apartment, and he saw that Maitland was standing at his door. He says he had around five cameras, around his house. Two of them were at the front of his apartment, and one of them was at his front door, so he could see who, if anyone comes to his door. One of the cameras looked out into the parking lot at his vehicle, and that camera could also pick up Noel Maitland's parking spot, right? And there are some other cameras, 2 cameras or so, that are focused on like some passageways and so on between blocks, block A and block B. Yeah. Now one of the cameras is focused on a staircase leading up to the second floor. He said those cameras were installed by a technician. So back to the occasion where he said he saw Maitland on the TV. He said he saw Maitland on TV and that Maitland tried to call him on the phone because he couldn't come to the door due to the fact that he was in the meeting, the work meeting. Maitland knocked the door, but because of the meeting, he didn't respond. So he said he sent Maitland a WhatsApp message explaining to him that he was in a meeting. But even after sending that message, he claimed that Maitland remained at the door of his house or his apartment for around 15 minutes. Eventually, he got the opportunity to, answer the door. So having opened the door, he said Maitland told him that a girl who was by his place had gone missing. The neighbor said he said to Maitland that, that's why when I don't see a neighbor for a while, I give them a call. Just said to him, say, boy, I understand because that's why when they see me call, neighbors find out, if they're all right and so on. That's the reasoning behind it, So it was subsequent to Maitland telling him that the girl had gone missing from his place. Maitland asked him if he could come in and look at the camera footage. The neighbor didn't decline. He allowed Maitland to come in or go into the apartment. He said when Maitland entered, he, the neighbor, went to the television and tried to, navigate the recording equipment. He claimed that Maitland asked him to look at the footage for a particular time period. Right? And based on Maitland's guidance, he looked at around Tuesday afternoon. At the time when they were looking at the footage, that was around Thursday the 14th, right? So the Tuesday afternoon would have been the 12th of July 2022. The neighbor explained that it was when Maitland came to his apartment and, requested of him to check the cameras that he realized that only 2 of the 5 cameras had been recording and, saving footage. So the one that was facing the parking lot that was trained on his car and on Maitland's parking spot, that one was recording. And there was another one that focused on the passageway behind the apartment. He said that was also recording, but it worked based on a motion sensor. So if it wasn't triggered, based on the understanding from what he explained, if it wasn't triggered by the motion sensor, there was nothing recorded or saved from that. He said the footage showed Tuesday afternoon when Maitland's car arrived on the complex, and he described it as a greyish BMW, and he gave the license plate number and said that he knew that to be Maitland's car because Maitland identified it as his car. So he said he saw when the car came into the complex and drove into the parking spot that is designated for Maitland. So it parked facing the complex and yada yada yada. According to him, by just looking at the screen, he wouldn't have seen anyone apart from Maitland leave the car at that time or that day based on the view that he had. But he saw when Maitland drove in, and he vaguely saw Maitland in the car. He saw his upper body and his head and his shoulders. But he didn't necessarily see, he couldn't tell if there was anybody else in the vehicle or if they had come out, or anybody else had come out of the vehicle. According to him, he said that Maitland told him that he, Maitland, would feel more comfortable if the neighbor deleted the footage. But the neighbor said he told Maitland that he would not delete the footage, and that Maitland asked him at least twice at that time if he could delete the footage. He said he didn't agree. He wasn't having any of it because he didn't feel that it was appropriate to delete footage from video recording. After he told him that, he said Maitland didn't respond further. But at one point, he claimed that Maitland had said to him that, he didn't want him to feel that he was pressuring him to delete the footage, but the neighbor said that he definitely felt pressured, by Maitland, like he was pressuring him. Anyhow, he said he told Maitland that he would call a technician who would install the cameras and have the technician go over the footage. And he claimed that Maitland told him that he would come back when the technician arrived. According to the neighbor, at this point, Maitland seemed or appeared worried, and it seemed he had great consternation based on his appearance. He seemed very worried, and then he said Maitland seemed very worried, and then he left, and that he saw him again later on the same day, a few hours later, when the technician had arrived. Maitland came back to his apartment, and he said he allowed him inside again while the technician was there. So the technician began to navigate the footage, and Maitland gave him instructions on what to navigate. So he told him what period to look through. So they looked at the Monday night into what would have been early Tuesday morning. So the Monday night would have been the 11th of July 2022. And the Tuesday morning would have been the 12th of July 2022. And the neighbor said that was the only period that Maitland requested that they look through at the second time around. Because the first time he had only requested that they look at footage on the 12th, for a particular period on the 12th. But when he went back to the apartment, he broadened the search. So from the 11th to the 12th. So based on the period that Maitland extended the search to, or requested that the search be extended to, the neighbor said that he saw Maitland's vehicle drive into the parking space, and he saw a woman come out of the vehicle from the passenger side. According to him, Maitland was sitting in a chair right in front of the TV watching all of this, right? He said the woman was of light complexion, she was of slim build, she had long hair, and he was asked if he had seen that person before. But according to him, he saw someone previously on previous occasions in person who looked like the individual who he was seeing on the video, but he wasn't quite sure if it was the same person he always saw. He always saw in person, right? So the person on the video, he never sure if I the same person he must see all this time, but it would have resembled that person. Him couldn't definitively say, yeah. So he said when he looked at the video, he saw the woman walk in the direction of Maitland's apartment. At that time, according to the neighbor, Maitland mentioned that again, that he would prefer if the neighbor deleted the footage. He said the technician was also in the apartment at the time when that request was being made. And he again told him that he would not delete the footage. The technician said nothing. And then after that, the technician left and expressed that he would be willing to come back later in the evening. And this was already around 7 p.m., 8 o'clock, thereabout, according to the neighbor. The neighbor explained that his reason for putting up so many cameras around this place was because he suspected that someone had been trying to break into his apartment. He was instrumental in getting cameras installed at the front gate to the complex. And he was, at that time, the chairman of this for the strata. He said the same technician who installed the cameras around his place was the same technician who installed the cameras at the gate, the front gate. So the trial adjourned until Monday, May 26th, when the neighbor will take the witness stand again to complete his testimony. So people, I would recommend that you stay tuned to this channel for updates and weekly roundups for the case. Nothing will be insinuated here. We're picking no sides because this matter is before the court. We're simply giving you as it is, as the evidence comes out from court, right? Jury will have to make their decision when all the facts are heard in the case. Because I know this is a case of, this is well publicized. This has been publicized all over the place, and people form their own opinion, them say this, them say that, but that's not happening here. We're not doing that here. And we're not picking a side. See? Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more. Look forward to week 3.